bringing back Taylor Middleton to the platform. He was with us 9 weeks ago. Taylor, thanks for joining us today.
Hi, everyone. Good to be here.
Well, I can't believe, Taylor, that it's been 9 weeks, but it has been. You were on that first town hall that we had when all of this hit us, and wow, time's flown by. So I guess the first thing I'd ask you, Taylor, is how's it going in your world, and how's, what's your kind of day-to-day been like the last 9 weeks, and what you focused on?
It's both the longest and the shortest 8 or 9 weeks that I've ever experienced, right? It's like Groundhog Day. Every day we wake up and do more of the same thing. But listen, the bottom line is that we're ready to get our community back in business. We're ready to get our businesses generating revenue. We're ready to restart this economy in Big Sky, in the state of Montana, and in the United States and in the world. And next to taking care of one another and making sure that everybody's healthy, getting our economic engine restarted is the most important thing that we need to focus on now, right?
Absolutely. Well, it's definitely a great segue into what we're hoping to talk a lot more about in today's town hall and the future town halls, is that reopening and getting that engine turned back on. So recently you guys announced the opening of the summer plans. I mean, what did that feel like to be able to step back out and make an announcement like that?
It feels good. We announced the operations of golf beginning this Friday in front of Memorial Day. We're going to be opening the Whitewater Inn, the motel down in the canyon, the same day. And then we've announced our mountain biking program starting after the snow melts later in June. That's all phase one, and it feels really good. This reopening, I think I might have said before, if we thought closing was hard, we've learned reopening is even harder, right? We've got a new set of parameters. We've got a new way of doing business. The health and safety of our workers, it's so important. So getting this reopening right is complicated. I was reading in Imagine This and Explore Big Sky just this past week, and you interviewed 4 civilians from the community, right? Asking them what they thought about COVID and reopening. And every one of them had some kind of mixed tone, just like all of us talk about. It's like, yeah, we need to get our jobs going and we need to make paychecks, but we also are concerned about our health and safety. And we're really, there was a lot of feedback saying that closing our community was the right thing to do. And they said it, and I've had a lot of people say that to me. But we're also anxious and a little nervous about how do we get open again in an economically viable and healthy fashion.
Absolutely. What is, let's talk about staffing for a moment. Obviously, you guys are one of the largest employers, not only in our town, but in the region. What will your staffing plans look like for this year in terms of, kind of a percentage of staff as compared to a normal summer?
Yeah, it will be thinner. Our models are showing that we're going to have less visitation. We, like most businesses, tune our staffing and our business model to our revenue projections, right? And so we've got the business model piece to the staffing, but we also have the housing piece to our staffing. Whereas we used to put 2 and sometimes 3 people in a living arrangement, this summer and probably this whole year, it's just going to be 1 person, 1 unit, right? So it's going to be thinner. But our operations this summer especially are going to be thinner too. So we're not going to need as many staff as we've traditionally had.
Yeah. If the COVID trend were to continue to improve, do you foresee, even more ability to open more this summer? I mean, what about things like events or conferences or any type of gathering this summer? Is that even on on the docket for you guys to consider?
Yeah, so this is what the data says. We're going to hear from the king of airlines in just a minute with Brian Springer, but 10% or so of the people that traditionally travel or traditionally fly are flying right now. We've got the 14-day quarantine in place for out-of-staters, but we sense that that's going to be lifted by early June if things go well. But then when we look at surveys, well-done surveys with large sample sizes of consumer desire to travel, about 70% of consumers say, I'm staying put. I am not interested in travel. And so we've got to build business models around a much smaller level of business this summer and then grow into something that's bigger. But there's another reason, just the economic viability that's one of the important reasons for a smaller scale to our opening. But listen, protection, face mask, social distancing, contagion prevention, reduced occupancy in dormitories, private guiding versus group tour events. All these things we've got to figure out how to do it really well with smaller numbers before we can mass produce it to larger numbers.
Absolutely. I'm sure it's probably too early to tell, but you're certainly starting to already hear discussions about how the ski industry might look this winter. Not to get ahead of ourselves, but any discussions about the winter time that can be announced yet, or is it's still kind of a wait and see mentality and seeing how the summer goes and how things progress?
Yeah, so we've been having real conversations with our friends who are leading resorts in the ski industry. And I'm telling you, it doesn't matter if you're in Montana or Colorado or Utah or Portillo or Ischgl or Japan. It's the same. This COVID thing is affecting the world in the same way. And anybody that's thoughtful is going about this very cautiously. It's not a time to wing it and be a tough guy and try to push your way through this. You need to do it thoughtfully and with intent of building systems that will stand up to pressure. And you don't want to open and close again, right? And that's what's going on. The ski resorts are all projecting reduced visitation this winter in the US. And we're all designing plans to incorporate more social distancing, especially. The good news about skiing, though, is that it's naturally socially distanced, right? Those ski lifts are far apart and those chairs are far apart. And for Big Sky and for our community, that's a real marketing advantage that we have, having the lowest skier density per acre of any major destination in the United States. So we're going to turn that into that. We're going to lever that somehow. But we're expecting, to answer your question directly, this winter is going to be slower than we've seen for the last few years.
Yeah, absolutely. It certainly feels like that's a trend that we're heading towards. You've been part of this community for a long time, Taylor. It's been an interesting 9 weeks around town. In one way, it's nice because it's been so quiet and we've got some, empty trails to run around and enjoy and play on. But in another sense, you're starting to hear the word of people really lacking that sense of connection and community. And as we start to see here announcements like the Music in the Mountain series getting canceled and some of our other really fun gatherings getting canceled, there's really becoming that concern of how do we retain that sense of community and gathering. And I guess, this is more of a philosophical question. What advice do you have, or what role would the resort play in kind of helping build and retain that sense of community in Big Sky?
Yeah, that's a good question. Well, so a couple of big events are still on the books, like the Rut, like the Bull Ride. We hope that those big events will be able to stay on the books. But listen, so as many of you know, I'm an avid mountain biker, right? And I had one of those experiences of community just day before yesterday. I was out riding with my buddy Micah Robin, who drags me around and just thumps me. But we started running into friends on trails from 30 feet and 15 feet. We were sky-fiving one another and how are you doing? And I saw 15 friends on bike or on foot in the course of 3 hours. And you know how that made me feel? Great.
Wow. Yep, that's it is fun to be able to have those run-ins out there. Taylor, what's something that keeps you up at night?
Yeah. It's the economy, right? We have to get this thing restarted, the big global economy, and we've got to get this town's economy restarted, and we need to figure out a way to do it as soon as possible, not being brazen and not being callous, but get it restarted incrementally in small doses, and then keep it open, make sure it works, and then let's get fully open. And all of that needs to happen before the vaccine, right? It's going to get a lot easier when we have a vaccine, let's say 12 months, 18 months, 24 months, but we can't wait for that vaccine to happen. We need to, like you've heard me say before, we need to get ample testing so we can do random testing in our community to tell where illness might be, so we can tamp it down and make sure we don't have a big outbreak like Ishkal had or like Sun Valley had. And so we can keep our people healthy and we can operate successfully and then grow that model. And what keeps me up at night, and what keeps our team up at night, because really Big Sky Resort, it's like 10, 15, 20, 50, 100, 1,000 people that make that place tick. What keeps us up at night is figuring out how to do that well with a viable business model and healthily.
Yeah. Well, cheers to that. Let's hopefully can make that happen. What's something you're optimistic about as we look to this reopening?
I'm optimistic that America is going to do what America does. I'm optimistic that we're going to get a vaccine. I'm optimistic that we've got great medical care and the Big Sky Medical Center and doctors and nurses and staff there to take care of our community. There's a lot to be optimistic about.
Yeah. Well, that's that. Anyone that knows Taylor Middleton knows he's optimistic. So thank you for that. And I appreciate that. It's nice to not only have that in a leader, but as a community member who's been here a long time. Taylor, last question I'd have for you is 1 year from today, where do you think we sit? And you know, when we're having this conversation, you know, May 18th next year, where do you think and where would you like to see our community be?
I hope we're not all wearing masks, right? I'm going to be a mask. I am a mask wearer, and I encourage everybody to wear masks, because it's not about catching it, but it's about giving it. I could have it right now, and I don't want to give it to anybody else, and I don't want somebody else to give it to me. So we all need to wear masks now. But the good news is, if society is not wearing a mask 1 year from now, that means we're over the hump, and being over the hump will be at a good place to be.
Well, I appreciate that, Taylor. And I asked those questions for two reasons. One is I definitely appreciate your opinion on that. But secondly, is since you're the leader of like I said, the economic driver of our town, it's nice to know where the leader's head's at. I'll turn it over to you. Anything that you'd like to add, Taylor, or any thoughts or questions or thoughts back to the community that you'd like to share?
Oh, I just want to ask the community to take care of themselves and to take care of one another. And that's happening right now in spades. I can't tell you how many people are calling one another and checking on one another. And listen, that means so much to me when I get a call of support right now. And I know that means a lot to you, and I know it means a lot to Brian Springer. I called Brian a couple of weeks ago just to check in on him because he's got a lot on his plate, and he'll call me to check in on me. And we got to take care of one another, right? We're going to get through this.
Well, I appreciate that, Taylor. And like I said, you were with us on the first town hall 9 weeks ago, and I appreciate you coming back and sharing your thoughts. Once again, it's exciting to hear about the start of the opening for the summer, and remaining optimistic that we will be able to put together a winner, even though it looks like numbers will be down, but we'll be able to at least get out and enjoy some of that beautiful mountain. And thank goodness we have all that acreage to spread out on. So thank you, Taylor, for joining us today.
And let's hope for another big snow year. Wow, if we had a couple of really good ones, and I'm looking forward to one coming at us.
Wonderful.
Thanks, Eric.